tell a story about achieving your plans despite obstacles? I think those two questions are quite related. So why don't we start with Rick?
Which one of those? Does it make a difference?
You can choose one or answer both.
Okay. How have I dealt with failures? It is interesting in that I've always, always wanted to seem to be in this business, and it was something that drove me no matter what. I do see when times get rough, people just drop out. It's hard for me to actually understand that. But I understand there's certain needs that you have to do and deal with it. And I left Exxon right before the price collapsed in '85. So it started my own company. So, my timing was really impeccable. But, what we did at that time to circumvent that is I always believe there's opportunities, no matter what, no matter when the oil's, when it was $8 a barrel in '97, I became the executive director of APG. So, there you go.
We should chart your progress so we can know when to invest and when not.
Yeah. Well, actually, oil prices went up the entire time I was a director. So that's and when I left, they went down. So
Every time you change your job.
But I always believed there was opportunities. Like in '85, we looked around and this company, and we saw that a lot of the majors were doing these big research projects. That they'd always done, because I worked for Exxon. And these big geologic engineering or geologic research projects. And they had stopped doing those in the States. And they had they were still doing them overseas, outside the US. And they were still doing those. So we came up with the concept of, instead of doing just research for those companies, so there's a lot of companies that did that, and they would maybe get 5 companies, do a consortium, it would cost $100,000, and then they would charge percentage over that, maybe 25, 30%, and charge $130. We pulled our money and we did the research projects ourselves. We paid $100,000 for that, and then we sold them to as many companies as we wanted to for whatever. So our first project, we sold it's the Danian, actually was one of the first projects on Islam. We had a European company, but we also did in the States. We did a project on hunting, and we sold. It cost about 100 plus, and we sold about 50 of those for around 40,000 a piece. And so that was, and only that because these projects were long term and at different stages, we were able to breach the gap as far as prices and get people employed for a long time. So I just say when you reach that failure point, don't give up, look for opportunities.
Thanks. Anyone else want to jump in?
Yeah, I'll jump on for a second. So you can't work in oil and gas.
Like over here.
Yeah, man, there's no failure. See, this is my point. See, once you fail, you try to learn from it. Yeah. Anyway, you can't work in oil and gas, and I think this is going to be true of wind energy and solar and the other sources as we come together through this energy transition without experiencing failure. And you can experience abject failure and minor failures, and there's a couple attributes about them that I think make a big difference. One is you usually have an audience, and if you don't talk to that audience after you fail or before you fail, you probably won't learn as much about what caused it so you can avoid it next time, what to change. So that's one thing. Second thing is when you do fail, regardless if you're talking to the audience or not, just pick yourself up, dust it off, and get going again. And that's what you have to do. And I think the one that just always rings true for me is that when you run into those times, there's never, and it sounds corny, but there's never a more enriching learning experience than failing. I found over the years that when we put teams together, especially teams that are going to work on complex problems, I try to, if you get to pick the team, try to have a mix of young people who haven't failed, people who made their career, that, you know, they're sharp, they know what they're doing, and also to have a mix in there of someone who's climbed up the ladder and fallen off, and then had to get back on the ladder and climb up. And the reason that I always try to do that is because the person who's never failed, as they get higher up the ladder, they hold on to that ladder tighter and tighter because they don't want to lose what they've gained so far. And they can end up being a roadblock. Whereas someone falls off the ladder, they realize they didn't die, they realize they could climb back up, and usually they climb up the first part a little bit faster than they did the first time. And then they usually pass the person that's holding on so tight. And as a team, the person without failing at the end of the day learns that you can recover even if they don't come out of it. So it's a learning experience, and it's not a bad thing at the end of the day.
So I would add to that the word resilience, and I think it's really important in this industry when you've got these cycles of ups and downs. You have to become resilient. You learn, as you just said, a lot from your failures, and it's a moment to stop, reflect, and really think about what went wrong, why, and you definitely don't want to repeat it. You know, whether it's a column where you had a really clear, nice DHI, and you think it's filled with spill, and you find out it's only halfway, and you're like, oh, okay, how did we miss that? Or can you drill a dry hole in the shales? Yes, you can. I have. But what's the opportunity? What's the flip side of that? Okay, now I know the edge of my play. I know, I have some new information to feed in, and so it really gives you that opportunity then to better understand what you're working on, and it might lead you in a different direction that's even more successful. So it's finding a way to especially as an explorationist and having that kind of mindset, you have a probability of success on everything, and you're not going to be 100%. So you know that, and sometimes you're really down in lower probabilities, but when those things work out, it all starts in your mind. It all starts with ideas, and I think you will have failures, and make sure that you learn from them. That's the key. I completely agree with what you said, Jim.
I'll just issue one summary statement. I won't go on. I had a great boss one time that said, if you're not failing, you're not trying, and I want you to try.
Yeah, I wanted to say one thing I tell my students is, and I've always done this, you need to have mentors. Because it's mentors that you go to and you have those discussions about maybe why things failed and how, a lot of times they can give you perspective on, if they're good mentors, they give you perspective on, why things went wrong, what were some of the personal things about you, maybe things didn't work out, Bill Fisher, Robbie Drees, Shirley Dutton, they're all very different personalities. They've all been mentors of mine and still are. And so I'll support what Dennis said, is that when you put together a team, a lot of times there's this tendency to want to put together a team of people that have a lot of similarities to you, because that's what you're comfortable with, But if you want a really strong team, and I've seen this before, I've got some stories, but put together a team that has a variety of skills, a lot of different skills, I think, some people probably look at failures in their career and say, well, maybe I didn't have the right team together, right? And a lot of times that team looks way too much like yourself. Put some people in there that have some different skills and bring some different things to the table. It's harder to manage a team like that, but oftentimes it's a lot more creative and a lot more productive team, and you'll see this a lot more successful team.
I have one more thing too. We've been talking about professional risk a bit. And there's personal risk, and one of the things that I've found being involved with professional organizations, it gives you a chance to stretch and grow on your soft skills. So presentations, networking, opportunities to be part of the convention and maybe be a chair for a session. But that gets you out and doing something different. But it's an easy place to fail. You have one bad day, maybe you learn from it, and you don't repeat that again. And I remember a conversation with this guy here in the front row, Charles Sternbach, some years ago when I was asked to do a role with the EMD, to lead the whole Energy Minerals Division, planning for the conference. It's luncheon, it's the talks, it's all the fundraising, everything. And I called Charles for some perspective, and he said, Andrew, if it makes you uncomfortable, you should probably do it. And, I still follow that advice too. What is my gut telling me? But what is the worst that could happen? Really, what's the worst that could happen, and what could I gain from this experience? So thanks for that, Charles.
Thank you. Any other comments on the failure part? You know, that failure is such a bad word, isn't it? I never say failure in our office, we always say challenges. What's our challenge? Failure, that's so, like an end all, right? We never really face this end all, true failure. There's more challenges, and sometimes you don't live up to them, and then we overcome that and move forward. Let's see, the next one then, moving on. Ryan, thank you for this one. With the advancements in geologic software, reducing the manpower needed to plan a well, so this is meaning more computing power, where would you see the future job market for current students? So it means like there's going to be fewer students because one person could run several rigs because of the computing power. And there's a related question further down. It had to do with what do you see as the role of artificial intelligence coming forward. So we're going to combine those two questions, kind of give the panel a shot or a chance to ruminate on that and think about how you might reply to it. And those, I think those kind of go together. We can stick those together. So it'd be like, what's the role of the geoscientists going forward with all this advancing in computing power and artificial intelligence? So if we could combine that. Let's see. Anybody want to take a shot at that first? Daniel, good.
I'll take a shot from the Slumberjay perspective. All right, so we make the software that is used by and large around the industry, Cottrell and others. And we have a huge effort going on in California right now, working with Google and other companies on the artificial intelligence side, and as well as big data. And it is amazing. It's definitely, Ryan hit it right on the head. It is already changed things, and it's going to change it in the future, that we'll be able to take a lot of data that we never would have a chance to look at before, and the software can assimilate it into different scenarios, basically. So you can look at different pathways of how to, say, design a well, how to design a field. So you do need fewer people for that. But what you'll always need is someone who understands what it all means in the end, and how to adjust when the software didn't get it exactly right. I remember a few years ago when we rolled out a new software product, we tied that with a whole series of meetings with Southwest Airlines and their executive team to find out, when they started switching the interior of the cockpits, where they were using more and more automated systems for navigation. And after they told us all about it, how it improved their profitability and it made it safer and all these other things, the pilot was sitting in the back, and he hadn't really said very much. And so when we had the break, I went out and talked to him, and I mentioned to him, I said, it was great to hear what management thought about this, and certainly to see the results of the automation, especially on the servicing side and so on. He just looked at me and said, yeah, that's true. Every now and then, it's a good idea to look out the window. And I never forgot that. So I think as far as the jobs go, from the perspective, there's a whole bunch of jobs that you're probably not thinking about related to that. We currently are hiring people that have engineering and geoscience, geophysicist skills to help put the code together for the software we're developing. We have a whole series of folks that actually take a look at it from different perspectives and test it before you can even take it to market. And then we have a whole group of customers that actually test it in advance, usually for a couple of years before we actually make it commercial. And all of those are jobs that didn't exist 10 years ago.
So I'll comment a little bit from an XTO perspective. Mostly what we do is unconventional reservoir training. So your base job of reservoir characterization is what we all study to do, right? We really want to understand what the rocks are telling us. But as a geoscientist in today's world, you've got to understand everything that goes into why it's producing the way it is. So what are my ultimate recovery factors, and how am I going to get more out of this rock? Because effectively, with horizontal drilling and hydraulic fracturing, we're creating the reservoirs ourselves. So it's a little different than conventional work. And when you think of all of that information that has to be fed in with how was the well drilled, what was my lateral length, what was my tortuosity, my well core, all the parameters of drilling have to be coupled with how was it fracked, how was it completed, exactly what was my stimulation, and then what are my results, how's my production, and what's my very quickly, sometimes we have to go to artificial lift. You as a geoscientist have to be able to integrate that data so that when you're planning your next pad or your next well, you've ascended that learning curve very quickly. So it goes to what I think Leslie mentioned it right from the get-go, understanding whether it's Spotfire or Tableau, or how do I get all those multivariate problem things, because I can understand my rocks, but if I have a disconnect with where my production is, it's not going to do you any good. So having a data analytics approach at some point in time is very important once you've got the fundamental reservoir characterization understood. Because it's a tough nut to crack in a lot of places. And you know, with that learning, you can get there. The one thing about, you know, geologic software, and I echo what Dan just said, is you've got to look at it with a different lens. You know, anyone can put in the same data set, and the machine may contour it the same way, or may calculate it the same way based on a template from log parameters, but what you see differently, where you see something else in that section, is going to be the one thing that differentiates your interpretation from somebody else, and you've got to be able to look at it objectively that way.
Yeah, I kind of look at this, I've got a unique perspective of that. When I took the job with APG, I took the job, it wasn't a downturn actually, we were doing fine at that point. It was, but I did have 12 years, so I was out of the industry for 12 years as a working geologist. And we had pioneered work with geographics because of our big databases and our research projects with geographics. And so I had seen that start. And so 12 years later, I just kind of plopped back down with SM Energy, and I'm like, raster logs. Wow, what a great idea. LAS. I can calculate on the fly, and it was amazing. I mean, and what it is, it's not so much, I've never been threatened by software. I mean, how many people, take my own poll here, I mean, how many people run out of things to do? Anybody? I mean, I always find that it makes me much more efficient. It makes the geologists, the engineers, when you look at the efficiency in that time period that's going to continue to grow with artificial intelligence. I've never had that, but it's going to make us more efficient in the long run. It really is. It's like I've always done my yard. I've got a pretty big yard. Well, I finally just said, you know, my wife's been asking me to get somebody, so I got a really good yard person. It didn't give me more time, and I've got time for other jobs. And that's what I'm doing. So it's the same way in our industry. I think we become more efficient until we actually run out of things to do. And I don't think that's going to be anytime soon.
That's a very valid point. Basically, the software is not limiting us, it's enabling us. So I don't think, like we said, any of us ever think like we're getting displaced by software. It's just making us better. And it magnifies us and makes each of us more valuable. And if you can't use that leverage to become more valuable, that's when you're going to be pushed aside. So that kind of ties into software.
That's like, you know, I use a music analogy, you know, musicians used to just freaked out whenever radio came along, and because they thought, oh, it's going to replace the live, you know, performance, but I didn't see any problem going on last night. So technology doesn't replace us, it's going to be drug design.
Anyone else? Got that covered?